Hey guys, I've got a super important announcement regarding Warrior 10, the 2000 lumen weapon light that I reviewed last December. Check this out. What the heck? That is not okay. You absolutely cannot have a flashlight shutting off while you're firing it. I don't care if the flashlight comes back on when you're done. That is absolutely unacceptable. Let's get to the bottom of this. Now, if you did catch my full review of the Olight Warrior 10 flashlight that I uploaded last December, you might recall that, admittedly, I didn't get a chance to test fire this thing before uploading that video. However, I had seen some videos from some really well-respected and well-known firearms experts on YouTube who test fired theirs without issues. So I assumed that, along with Olight's track record for making extremely reliable flashlights, I assumed that this would just not have any issues at all. And even after I uploaded that video, I did get out and test fire this thing, but I did so in broad daylight, and I did so with my face on this side of the firearm. So I didn't realize that it was blinking every time that I was pulling the trigger. I would just fire a few rounds and then check to make sure it was still working, and it was, so I assumed that everything was okay. So you can imagine how shocked I was when Olight reached out to me to tell me that they were having issues with the first generation of Warrior 10. I mean, my initial response was, mine works just fine. It survived the drop test, the underwater test, the brightness test, and I saw other YouTubers firing theirs without any issues, so what could possibly be wrong, right? Well, they informed me that other people were having issues with the light blinking off every time they fired. So they asked me to go out with my heaviest recoil rifle and test fire with a camera setup so I could actually see if mine was doing it or not. And that's when I noticed this. That is absolutely unacceptable. I personally have had this flashlight on my home defense gun for the last 3 months, and whether you're planning to use your flashlight for self-defense or for hunting, when you pull the trigger, that is the worst time for your flashlight to shut off, even if it's only for a split second, because you need to know if you actually hit what you were shooting at. That little blink right there is enough time for your target to disappear in the darkness, never to be seen from again. Seen from? Never to be seen again. So Olight did make it right. They sent me this awesome Gen 2 Warrior 10, and I went out and test fired it, and as you can see, it doesn't shut off at all. It works just fine. I dumped about 4 mags of double-aught buck through this thing, and the camera doesn't lie. There wasn't even a hint of a blink. Now, in addition to requesting that I test this thing with my heaviest recoil rifle, Olight also requested that I drop test this thing, which I had done last time, and it did pass with flying colors. But just to humor them, I went ahead and did it again. This thing is drop test rated for 2 meters, 6 feet, so I'm 6 foot tall, so I just held it above my head and dropped it, and I knew it was gonna pass. So I thought that was kind of too easy of a test. So I decided to just chuck it as high and as far as I could. And the first time it landed in the dirt because my aim is absolutely terrible. At least when throwing flashlights. It's a little bit better when I'm shooting firearms, but not by much, honestly. So just to be extra sure, I threw it again and made sure it landed on the concrete this time, and it survived and was still functioning just fine. And just to be extra sure, I went ahead and threw it one more time, again, as high and as far as I could, just to make sure it wasn't a fluke, and it landed and survived that one. So this new generation of flashlight is definitely as tough and rugged and reliable as you need it to be. Now, in addition to beefing up the internals of this flashlight, they also made some changes to the remote pressure switch. You might notice right now that it does actually come with a Picatinny rail mount, which is pretty sweet, and the cable they put on it is much shorter, so less likely to get hung up and snagged on something. The original one that I got was this ridiculously long, like telephone cord style, and it was like, what are you gonna do with all that? You have to like wrap it around your optics and stuff to get it to install correctly. But this new one right here, definitely much better. Now this magnetic connection here for the remote pressure switch has gotten a lot of flack from some other firearms YouTubers. What they're saying is if you're gonna use this thing for self-defense or for hunting, and so if you're crawling through some brush or coming around a corner and this thing gets hung up, it could just break free and then you're kind of out of luck. So they're saying the more traditional connections that lock into place are a better option for those instances. Now there's obviously a lot of truth in that statement, but I'm actually going to respectfully disagree. You see, the reason why I like the magnetic connection over a standard locking connection is The same reason that I like Olight's magnetic charging bases, and that's because it can break free in a hurry if it needs to. Now, I'll admit that I've never been in the military or law enforcement. I've never been in combat, so you have to take my opinion with a grain of salt. But let's think about those exact scenarios. Let's say you are caught in a self-defense situation and you're crawling through brush or coming around a corner and this thing gets snagged. Now, if it's locked in there, you're gonna have to clear your snag. You're gonna have to figure out what's holding you back before you can move on, right? Versus with this one, it can break free, and then you're free to just use your flashlight as a normal flashlight. I mean, it's got these finger grips on here for a reason, so you can reach up and get some leverage and use this thing sort of as a foregrip and still operate the flashlight. And if you do happen to have a fraction of a second to look down, all you gotta do is toss that thing in the general direction of your flashlight, and the magnet puts you right back in business, right? So I guess what I'm trying to say is there's just benefits and drawbacks to both designs, and I personally like the magnetic design better because I can be charging it in my gun safe, and if I need to grab it quickly, this is gonna break free. And again, if I have half a second to toss that on there, I'm in business. And I just don't think that you can be in business that fast, going from a charging battery to full-on combat mode in fractions of a second with the other design. But again, it's just my personal opinion. Feel free to let me know in the comments whether you agree with that or not. So I want to thank Olight for sponsoring this video. They just want to get the word out about the issues with the first generation Warrior 10s. If you happen to have a first gen with these issues, contact Olight. They want to make it right. They want to repair or replace it with a brand new Gen 2 version. And if you don't already have a Warrior 10 and you're thinking that a 2000 lumen beast of a flashlight would be awesome to add to your collection, they are having a flash sale tomorrow, March 22nd, where you'll be able to get Warrior 10 for 30% off, or if you bundle it with the remote pressure switch and the Picatinny rail mount, you'll actually get it for 40% off. So check out the links in the description for that, and if you haven't seen it yet, check out my original full review of the flashlight where you can see the underwater test and the brightness test to see how bright 2000 lumens actually is. Check out that video, or check out this playlist down here of what I feel like are the best budget accessories that you can get for your firearms. Ones that don't shut off every time you fire it. Okay, I'll see you in the next video.